Video games are something that we often play to relieve stress, relax, or to just have fun. And other than that, we really don't think that much about them. However, there is more to video games than just fun. And since this is a channel that talks about lost media, you should already know what this means. Video games can actually become lost media. They can become lost due to the cancellation of the game, the studio of the game being shut down, or just because the game falls into obscurity. So today, I'll be talking about my first top 10 in over a year, because today we'll be talking about 10 lost video games. Snoopy Flying Ace is a dogfighting video game that was released in 2010 based on the Peanuts comic strips that was published by Xbox Game Studios and was developed by Smart Bomb Interactive. The game serves as a sequel to the 2006 game Snoopy vs. the Red Baron, with the game's plot following Snoopy being tasked to take down members of the Flying Circus, which is commanded by Manfred von Richthofen, who you may know as the Red Baron from World War I. For a long time, the video game was mostly lost except for the demo. What made this worse is that in 2016, the game was delisted from the Xbox Marketplace due to licensing issues. This also made the game impossible to download on both Xbox 360 and Xbox One, and for more than 6 years the game would remain lost. Until July 24th, 2022, when the game would be found by Internet Archive user Lost Scandinavian Media, who would say that they found the game on their old Xbox 360 when the game was still available, and would upload a .zip file containing the game. Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill is a video game that was supposed to be released in 1993. The game stars Socks the Cat, who is the actual pet of former President Bill Clinton. The game's plot followed Socks fighting foreign rat spies invading the White House to steal nuclear plans. The game would have reportedly had bosses based on actual politicians and former presidents like Ross Perot and Jimmy Carter stand-in. Unfortunately, the game would go unreleased due to the publisher of the game shutting down. For years, the game's whereabouts would be unknown, but the cartridge of the game would end up in the possession of a video game collector named Jason Wilson. However, Wilson was keen on not releasing the game due to the fact that it would diminish the value of the game. Later on, Wilson revealed that he would actually be selling the game for $5,000. Quite ironically, the person who did buy the cartridge would eventually release the ROM of the game to the public on February 1st of 2018. Call of Duty Devil's Brigade was a cancelled third-person shooter that was going to be released on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. The game was going to be set in Italy during the Second World War. Not much of the cancelled game is known, but what we do know is that the game have used the D-pad as a way to direct a person's squad, and the guns that were supposed to be used in the game. All that survives of this cancelled game are screenshots and one gameplay video. Sam & Max Freelance Police is a cancelled point-and-click video game based on the Sam & Max comic strips that was being developed by LucasArts from 2002 to 2004. It was supposed to be released on PC. The game was first announced on August 27, 2002 as a sequel to the 1993 game Sam & Max Hit the Road. During development, LucasArts would release as much media as possible due to the fact that Freelance Police was an adventure game being developed at a time when adventure games were in an active decline. One of the pieces of media, the E3 trailer, confirmed that the original voice actors Billy Farmer and Nick Jameson would reprise their roles. Basically, nothing is known about the plot, other than the fact that it was described by game director Michael Stemme as really 6 stories loosely held by a thrilling Uber plot. Unfortunately, on March 3rd, 2004, LucasArts would cancel the game, citing the previously mentioned decline in adventure games as to why they cancelled the game. Due to the fact that LucasArts would lose the Sam & Max rights in 2005, it's very unlikely that Sam & Max Freelance Police will ever be publicly released. And all that we have of the video game today are several screenshots of the game, 4 animation tests, and the previously mentioned E3 trailer. South Park is a cancelled open-world game based on South Park. It was developed by Ubisoft and Buzz Monkey Studios in 2005. It's going to be released on Xbox, PS2, and the GameCube, before being cancelled for unknown reasons. The gameplay would have been open world where the player could roam around, drive vehicles, and fight civilians, with the best comparison being Grand Theft Auto and The Simpsons Hit and Run, but unfortunately after being cancelled the game would be forgotten. That was until September 27, 2015, when 2 members of the Happy Console Gamer YouTube channel would discover a prototype for the game on a debug Xbox console, clearly designed to run unfinished game code for testers. This gameplay footage shows clearly early and broken gameplay. All that has surfaced for this obscure cancelled game is around 15 minutes of gameplay footage and a cutscene where Cartman is inside a mental hospital. Christopher Columbus is a cancelled shoot-'em-up game that was being developed by Misawa Entertainment from 1992 to 1993. It would have been their first attempt at game production because Misawa is actually a game publisher. The game's plot is set in 1492 as Columbus sails the historical Santa Maria as he travels on the water and the skies to free people, restore peace, and find gold, but has to fight bizarre creatures on the way. The game was supposed to be released in January of 1993, but was cancelled for unknown reasons. Fun fact, the game also goes by this, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, which is Columbus's actual mysterious signature. All that exists of this game are reviews and advertisements. Weebirds is a cancelled Game Boy game that was developed by the Banjo-kazooie company that was going to be released in 1989 or 1990. The game only has 2 mentions from the 80s, one from the Banjo-kazooie company product Blind Roacher, and in the book titled Video Game Quest, the complete guide to home video game systems, video games, and accessories. The description of the game is as follows. So what if you've got a styrofoam face? Hey, it is Walt out there. The Weebers know that. That's why we've given your hero a steam iron face, grasshopper legs, and little booties that look like Volkswagens. Think that's outrageous? Wait till you meet up with your fish larvae enemies. Come on, what are you in for? Be a dweeb. Other than that, almost nothing is known about this game. However, it is theorized that another game titled Gathers could be Dweebers due to the fact that the enemies in both Gathers and Dweebers look similar. Other than that, we'll probably never know the backstory behind this mysterious game. Banjo-kazooie is a supposed cancelled video game that would have been developed by Rare and was going to be published by Nintendo in the early 2000s. The main reason we know about Banjo-kazooie is because of the end of Banjo-tooie, in which the main antagonist Gruntilda tells the player that they'll return in Banjo-3. It is not known if this is a real teaser or just a joke. However, at Space World Tech 2000, a tech demo titled Banjo-3 was shown, which could prove the validity of the game. Later in 2002, Microsoft would buy Rare, and a mysterious build titled Banjo-X was discovered, which was dated back to June 2004. But when attempting to boot the code, a black screen would pop up with text explaining that there was missing code. Only one level titled Mumbo's Mountain was created for this build alongside a few more items. Later on in 2006, a trailer for a potential new Banjo-Kazooie game was released, but nothing else would happen with this trailer. The only piece of potential Banjo-3 is the tech demo from 2000. Team Fortress 2 is a class-based team shooter game developed by Valve and that was released in 2007. The game is a personal favorite of mine. However, the game has a very long development history that dates back to 1998. The first attempt at a Team Fortress 2 was back in 1998, titled Valve's Team Fortress, which is meant to be a much more realistic shooter and would eventually be canned, with the second attempt at a Team Fortress 2 would be a year later in 1999, titled Team Fortress 2 Brotherhood of Arms. The game would have featured a class called the Commander, who would have seen the entire battlefield and would have the ability to see through the engineer's cameras. The original 9 classes would also have been changed in very unique ways. For example, the engineer would get 3 new buildings, a regular camera, a security camera, and a drill motor. The soldier would have been renamed to the Heavy Infantryman and would have gotten a jetpack to replace the rocket jump. He also could go invisible for 20 seconds. The Scout class would be renamed to the Light Infantryman and would generally be the same, except for the fact that he could use light machine guns. The Field Medic would have been able to heal players by looking at them, and the Spy wouldn't have been really changed that much. Also, the Commando would have been a prototype for the Demo Man. In E3 1999, it would be revealed that the Pyro class would be introduced again due to its exclusion in Valve's Team Fortress. E3 also would have introduced the Machine Gunner, who would have essentially acted as the Heavy, the Ranger, who I can presume acts as the Sniper, and would have added another class entitled the Instructor. It would have also revealed that the game was also going to have a single player and multiplayer campaign. It was also revealed that there would be vehicles, however they would mostly just be used for combat like tanks. Eventually the game would get cancelled during development. The third attempt at a Team Fortress 2 would be in 2003, during the 2003 source code leak on Valve, when it was revealed that there would be another attempt at a Team Fortress 2 game titled Team Fortress 2 Invasion. Invasion would be a much more cartoony game compared to its predecessors. The game would also have a war between humans and aliens, primarily using assets from Half-Life 2. but would still keep some aspects from Brotherhood of Arms, like the Commander class making a reappearance. Some of the classes would change. For example, an Escort class would be introduced, but in all aspects, all the classes would just really get name changes, like the Soldier being named the Commando, the Engineer being named the Defender, and the Spy being named the Infiltrator. The fourth and final attempt to make a Team Fortress 2 would happen in 2006. After 8 years of hype, Valve would announce TF2 at E3 of 2006. Even though E3 trailer is basically the final product, there are still a few differences from the final game. Most differences would include content from Team Fortress Classic, like the civilian class, the 2-foot bridge not having a roof, and the most noticeable difference being the inclusion of grenades. However, when the game was released in the following year, all these aspects would be removed, except for some reason in the retail copies, grenades can be used. Walt's Warning is an interactive flash game released in 2009 to promote Season 2 of The Greatest Show of All Time, also known as Breaking Bad. Players could submit their names, location, and photos of themselves. The game would make customized videos of Walter White giving a warning based on what they submitted. The game's plot would have had the player running from Heisenberg before getting abducted by Heisenberg. When the player wakes up in the RV, Heisenberg interrogates the player, questioning why the player is out in the desert in the first place. During the interrogation, the player can use their mouse to look around the RV and see the chemistry equipment on Heisenberg's left, or the gun on his right. If the player looks at the chemistry set for too long, they will be tortured with chemicals, but if they look at the gun for too long, they will be repeatedly hit with it. After passing out, the player will be returned to the desert, with the message of a warning directly addressing them nearby. The player is then encouraged to fill out a form that includes their friends' information so they might play the game. The game would actually go on to win 2 awards, but despite this, the game would fall into obscurity and would eventually become lost. Fortunately, footage from the game has been found, but the original .sw file did not contain the full game. We may have footage of the game, but the actor Walter White, Heisenberg or whatever, Bryan Cranston, has said that he's recorded potentially thousands of voice lines, which means we are potentially scratching the surface of a crystal blue iceberg.